Hello, welcome to the Astari channel. I am Holland Timmons, otherwise known as your local Astari. So, today on the Astari channel, we will be reviewing the Spirit Archives. Now, the Spirit was created around 1940, I believe. Let me check really quickly. Never mind. It's created around 1940. Will Eisner owned the Spirit completely. He was one of the few comic book artists, writers to do so at the time. Like, most got screwed by the companies. But Will Eisner did the Spirit Archives, the Spirit section. It was a comic book that you would get with your local newspaper. Again, he wanted to do a detective strip, but his editor calls him up. It's like, Will, superheroes are in. Do you have any, superheroes? Will Eisner is, working on this detective series, and he's like, yeah, I think I have a superhero. Great. Does he have a costume? He draws a little domino mask on the Spirit. It's like, yeah, he's got a mask. And it's like, great, what else does he have? He draws gloves on him. He's got gloves. That's great. So that's how the Spirit got his costume. It was great. The first issue, he's fighting against Dr. Cobra. He's splashed in some chemicals, a chemical preservative that lasts 1,000 years. So technically the Spirit may live for 1,000 years, maybe not, who knows. But yeah, it's a good strip. As you go further and further, up until around volume 5, it's Will Eisner and a couple of other artists. But then around volume 6 or 7, Will Eisner is off to war, fighting and punching actual Nazis. You better pray to God you never have to fight actual Nazis, let's just say that. Will Eisner did, Jack Kirby did. These were badasses. Anyway, Will Eisner came back from the war, and the Spirit section had gotten stale, so he came back with lots of ideas. And trust me, he pretty much reinvented the comic book and laid out all the basics. Even during the first time he was writing it before the war, he was reinventing things. He created the splash page. Pretty much how you do a comic book is all thanks to Will Eisner. Of course, Carl Barks did his own thing, but that's because he's Carl Barks. Anyway, second issue, Will Eisner introduces Ebony White. An unfortunate character, pretty much mandated by Herbert Sorel, I believe. Fuck him. But, yeah, later on, Will Eisner took the problematic character forced upon him, and, yeah, he kind of decided to improve the character. The character wants to self-improve, and it does, and that's admirable, that's definitely admirable. And later he just took the character and swapped him out for Sammy. And I did like Sammy too. Sammy I felt was a much better character as a sidekick, but near the end of the strip, Will Eisner was like, oh, you think you like Sammy, huh? Let me bring back Ebony. And it's like, you know what, I kind of missed Ebony. So yeah, that's that in terms of the sidekicks. The Spirit at the beginning also had an Autoplane. It was a car that turned into a plane. It was there, but I feel the character worked better without the Autoplane, just like I felt the character worked better without a gun. It was a very experimental comic book. Very good, I would say. Very, very good. One of my favorites are the musical sing-alongs they do. There's this song they write, and they have the Spirit pictures of the panels, and it's really great. They do it quite often. Not very often, but often enough that it seems to be a staple. Anyway, the Spirit first had he has many arch nemesis, but his main arch nemesis in the beginning was the Squid. But after Will Eisner returned after the war, he kind of killed off the Squid and introduced the Octopus. And that's pretty cool, by the way. The Octopus is a great character. You never really see his face, but no, that's what works about him. What else? There's a lot of supporting characters, of course. Many characters. Carrion, I forget, that guy. There is Sans Serif, again, like, there's a lot of women, a lot of guys, like, the strip is very good. Eventually, like, it got to the point where Will Eisner wasn't focusing so much on the spirit as he was, like, the citizens of Central City and their stories. And the strip was getting more experimental, but that meant it was just getting better. Let's see. Around the end of the strip, Will Eisner wasn't involved as much, but he was trying to boost the spirit section, and he remembered that he had Wally Wood work on the spirit earlier, and he knew Wally Wood. And Wally Wood was America's top science fiction artist. He originally got his start working for Will Eisner, and is working at EC Comics, working on weird science, weird fantasy, that stuff. And several other books, of course, but like, he agreed to Will Eisner's request, and he put the spirit on his plate as well, his overstuffed plate, and he did a whole story arc near the end of the spirit run where the spirit goes to the moon, and this is in like the early 50s, so they didn't know much science about the moon, and you can tell. But the thing is, like, how is it you take like this pulp detective character, put him in a really basic science fiction story where he goes to the moon, and you make it one of the best science fiction stories I've read in a long time? That's crazy. But that's pretty much the spirit strip. It's freaking crazy. It's crazy great, crazy smart, crazy like a fox. And yeah, what can I say? It's like one of the comics that reinvented comics in a major way. And I would highly recommend The Spirit to anybody interested in older comics. Like, it's definitely one to check out. Of course, like, I feel like it really picks up steam in like volume 12. But like, it's best to like read the early volumes, I figure. But if you just want to dive into like the really great stuff that changed everything, volume 12 onwards.